I was at school at Chris as a pupil for my last 7 terms. My parents would like to have sent me there early, but they couldn't afford it.
And you were a day pupil?
Day pupil, yes. Lived in Letchworth, bought a house in Letchworth. And Letchworth was very exciting then. For me it was, anyway. There were so many things there which were things like the S&D freighters, the rubbish trucks.
Yeah.
Crennan Lay engineering works, Irving's parachutes, things like that.
Because of the industrial estate?
Yes, yes, it was very interesting. Yeah. Much to my dismay, there was a new cinema being built there, and I thought, great, there might be an organ. So I was passionate about organs, church organs and cinema organs. My mother was a professional pianist, concert pianist, and she tried to teach me the piano when I was young, but it didn't work because I'd be doing a bit of practice, and I hear her call out from the kitchen, C sharp, Peter, C sharp, can't you hear it? So we gave up, and I had lessons on the organ with the local organist then, which was good. I enjoyed it.
And that was 1935, wasn't it? That you were at...
Yeah.
And if I'm not prying, I mean, there was a sort of strong Quaker element to
Oh,
Letchworth.
yes.
Is that your background?
My mother was a seeker after all sorts of things. I mean, she was a naturopath, vegetarian, all those things, completely cranky. And in the end, she joined the Quakers in Letchworth. And I did too. And I liked it. And I did, in fact, become a friend, a member of the Society of Friends. Although later on I became a wayward member of the flock. The elders tried to sort of talk me round into it. I said, look, I'm afraid I just don't believe in all these spiritual things. I love the practical applications of Quakerism, including the pacifism, because I was a pacifist during the war and a conscientious objector. So it was all part of my life at the time. But I didn't get married until I was nearly 39, so I had a long time of bachelordom doing all sorts of lovely things, including motorsport.
And I mean, the way you describe Letchworth, it sounds quite hippie-ish, actually.
Sort
of, in the 30s.
Sandals and tweeds.
Yeah.
Very hand-woven. Sandals... Oh, Nicholas King Harris used to wear shorts and open sandals, no socks, right through the winter.
Masochist.
He looked a bit blue at times.
Yeah.
In fact, he even slept in a revolving summer house which is open, which is on the Arronfield lawn where the Harrises lived. So
I do remember it being kind of, there's that sort of slightly 19th century fresh air is good for you element of it.
Yes, cold shower every morning. Were you at school at the time of the cold showers?
No, I missed the cold showers, but we did have the constitutional walk, and they did sleep in the huts with the ice on the inside of the windows.
Yes. That was all part of the toughening. Do you know, everyone survived. And there was no heating allowed until October the 1st, regardless of what the weather did. So you just had to be tough.
And that sort of fitted in with the ethos, I suppose, the Garden City ethos and all that sort of post-Victorian thing of wanting to improve people's lives, but having quite almost like a missionary thing.
Well, Sir Ebenezer Howard, who started the Garden City movement, I mean, he was a real pioneer. He wanted people to live in healthy surroundings with work not too far away, which is why there was an industrial estate at Letchworth. But every street, every road in Letchworth was lined with different trees, every single one. So there were, 50 or 80 different sorts of trees in Letchworth. So very much a pioneer place.
And when you were a child, I mean, I think it predated the Great War slightly, but it would be relatively new. It had been sort of 20, 25 years old when you...
It started... The Garden City was founded in 1905, I think, 104. The two architects who really did most of the town planning were Barry Parker and Raymond Unwin, who lived in what is now Schoolhouse Aronside, one side and one the other.
Right.
And Sir Ebenezer Howard lived in Norton Way, which is now where Rosemary O'Neill lives. She lives in what is one part of his house there. So there's his plaque in brass on her door. I don't know if you've ever been there, have you?
I don't think so.
No. It's her daughter, you know, isn't it? Daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Yeah. So Letchworth was an exciting place in many ways. I enjoyed it.
And you having been a conscientious objector, you went into education, didn't you?
Yes, by accident.
Yeah.
But it was, I think it was something I must have had in the back of my own mind, really. I mean, Lynn Harris was very good. He was very understanding. And in many ways I was so lucky because when I was there I created my own job in many ways. He let me start a pottery department because I had been interested in pottery. And when I was down in Cornwall I had worked 1 day a week at Bernard Leach's pottery with him and with his son David.
And you were teaching in Cornwall, weren't you?
Yes, I was, that's right.
So you were saying about Bernard Leach?
Yeah, I mean, I worked 1 day a week at the Leach Pottery at Stenock, and he was just a lovely man. He was so helpful. I just went there, one afternoon a week, actually. And his son David was working there, and he's just died recently, but I knew him very well later. Anyway, that was all part of it. It was a very happy upbringing. I came to Chris from High Wycombe Royal Grammar School, which is a horrid place. It's now, and the head is now part of he's a member of the headmasters' conference and all that sort of thing. It's very, very proper. But then it was sort of almost institutionalised bullying, which was, I've kept out of it because I was big and just kept quiet. But it wasn't a very nice place. And when I went to Chris, which was in the summer term, beginning of the summer term, I couldn't believe the difference. I remember one instant, I mean, at the grammar school, changing for gym or sports was, it's an ordeal trying to get your shorts out without everyone grabbing you. And it was dreadful. Went to Chris, lining up for the shower after games, with your towel, naked. And I remember Roderick Barrett, who was day boy at the time, he said, "Your turn next, go on." And you're all standing there perfectly open. It was just a different kettle of fish. And my second term, I was appointed a counsellor. So I obviously fitted in.
Well, you were there for a long time, weren't you?
I was only there 7 terms.
But
as a pupil.
Yeah.
After that, a long time, yes. I think it's helped having been a pupil, because I knew what the place was about. But it just seemed to work for me completely. Not for everyone. I know that.
Moving on. Okay, and you were talking about the industrial estate in Letchworth, and that it was a place where they made things, and that I get the impression that side of life has always been an interest for you.
I suppose it has. I was lucky in a way because when war started, I'd just taken up a job at Hollerith, which is the International Tabulating Machine Company Limited. They used calculating machines using punched cards. And I was working there at the time when war broke out, and we were then working on, I was in the what was called the technical department, would be called R&D nowadays. And I realised I was working at night, so we were working on what was preliminary to the work at Bletchley Park. And the head of the department said, "Would you be prepared to move to go to Bletchley Park to carry on the work there?" And I realised then I was going to be in a sort of slightly dodgy position as a pacifist, because although it was not to cause death, it was to save death probably, if they could intercept things, I still think I was going to be in a sort of a bit of a dodgy position. So I said no. So in fact I resigned from the job there, and that's when I was without work, and Lynn took me on the gardening first of all, and then I went teaching. So that was how it all started in a way.
I mean, that
haphazardly.
And
life took me places.
And if this doesn't sound too crass, I mean the sort of social pressure to be in the services. I mean, there must have been a lot of people who intellectually felt as you did, who did join up or went into other reserved occupations.
Yes.
Because the wider society probably wouldn't have taken very kindly to that.
It wasn't the same as in World War One. no white feathers or anything like that. Lynn Harris had been to prison, of course, during World War One as a conscientious objector.
Yeah.
I was teaching when I signed up, and I signed up as when my enrolment date came, and I signed as a conscientious objector, not for the forces. And when eventually I was called for a tribunal, I was so lucky because I was called to Bristol, which had the reputation right through the war of being the most liberal-minded tribunal for conscientious objectors. And I was given, what do they call it, conditional exemption, conditional upon carrying on teaching, but also doing air raid warden, fire protection work, that sort of thing during the war. It was fine, I was at school anyway, so I took it on. So I was lucky. I've been lucky right through life, Martin.